name's Donnie Dinch. I'm going to go ahead and hit this first slide. I'm giving a talk called Ruthlessly Outcome Oriented. Quick background, I run a company called Bitsky, and we built a wallet primarily targeted at the mainstream audience. So we did a lot of the hard work, so if you're a developer, it's really easy to drop it into your application, your game, Unity. We have all these SDKs. Find me after. Anyway, what I really want to talk about is Ruthlessly Outcome Oriented. And this is a pretty important topic these days because we're working on a new platform. I think most of us have probably seen maybe 3, 4 different platforms between desktop, the internet, mobile phones, and let's see, hopefully blockchain. And when you have these new platforms, the things that's really exciting about it is that you get to create these new experiences that you otherwise wouldn't have. And with that, though, comes a little bit of calamity. Building on new platforms is hard. You don't understand, how people are going to interact with this, which things they're going to get, which things they're not, and it's really easy to kind of make some mistakes along the way. So, for example, it's kind of difficult to get rid of some old paradigms you might have. So 4 years into smartphone production, we still had a start bar, which is kind of crazy, and we still had a physical keyboard. And if any of you guys ever used a Windows mobile phone, it was a dog shit experience. And it wasn't a lack of people caring. It was just kind of, we've been making PCs for all these years. We've been using keyboards. Why would we not use a keyboard all of a sudden? And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's kind of easy to get hung up on all the new technology that comes out. And so this was actually supposed to be a 3D TV, but I see 4Ds now, and I don't know. I've never even seen this one. But I don't know if you guys remember, but I guess maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a huge push for 3D technology, and it was also a pretty bad experience and something that I wouldn't recommend you ever experiencing. But the bottom line is, it's very easy to lose sight of what the value is that you're building when you're on these new platforms. So how do we prevent this? We become ruthlessly outcome-oriented. Above all else, we prioritize the end-user experience that we're trying to ship, and we don't let other things get in the way. So, maybe that is the next one. Anyway, so I'll give a couple examples of things that are, there we go, of outcomes that were kind of ruthlessly achieved. So a great example is Apple. Whenever they shipped the iPhone, I don't know if you remember where you were January 2007, but it was quite a big deal. And I remember there was a really specific quote. There was a ton of them. You guys could dissect all of this. But the one that I thought was really important is that they said that they didn't want to ship a watered-down version of the internet on mobile. And that wasn't an easy feat. If you'd looked at any of the other mobile web browsers that we had at the time, they were, they just weren't good. They were all text-based. If you saw an image, you thought that you had like a space phone. Like this was a huge, huge advancement. But in order to get there, there was a lot of sacrifices that needed to make. But they stayed true to themselves. They didn't have a hardware keyboard, and they were able to ship the outcome that they wanted. Another one, which is actually a pretty fun story, for Netflix, the outcome that they were really shooting for when they started in 1997 was to deliver content to people as fast as possible. Fun fact, so when Reed Hastings was at Stanford studying CS, he had a problem that his professor, I guess, proposed to him, and it was like, what is the quickest way to get, I think it was a gigabyte of data from Palo Alto to New York. And after running all the numbers, doing all the math, it turns out it's just the best way is to throw a bunch of tapes in the back of a station wagon and drive to New York. And so this is actually one of the best testaments to staying true to your user outcome. Short term, the fastest way when Netflix launched was to send 4.7 gigabytes of data through the mail on a disk. Long term, in day one, they always knew it would be over the internet, but they didn't force that on the users until it was a sustainable option, until everyone had a certain amount of broadband. I think that took a lot of discipline. So how do we become ruthlessly outcome-oriented when we're building our own products? It's pretty simple. First step, definitively identify your target users. You need to know exactly who you're building for, and then the second step is to understand the critical value that you're providing to these people. And here's the one that I think trips up most people, because it's really easy to get excited about new technologies and new things and new interfaces. I mean, even Amazon released a 3D phone, which was crazy. But they lost sight of what exactly was the value that they were providing to their users. So at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Know your users and build something that they want. And as simple as that is, it sometimes is difficult to execute with all the other variables you have in product development. So how do we stay this way? William Faulkner had this incredible quote called, "Kill your darlings." And this has generally been applied to writing, but I think it's applicable in this parallel universe as well. When writers are hitting a writing block, they're struggling, oftentimes it's because they've created an element or a character that is important to them, but isn't important to the story. And it really trips up the story. And so this quote, I think actually Stephen King even took it a little bit further, but it's basically get out of your own way, let your ego aside, and do what's best for the readers of the book. And so I think that that's a pretty applicable thing to actually building software as well. He's handsome. So the two examples that I mentioned earlier, so you think about the darlings that Apple or Netflix killed. Certainly with Apple, they made a bunch of sacrifices. Was it just the keyboard? Was it the R&D development it took to build that screen? The price point that they launched at was probably not the ideal price point. Was it like 400, 500, and 600 or something? And then on Netflix, they just decided, let's not use the internet. Even though we want this to be the way we deliver content, let's not use it until it's ready for our users. So how can we really apply this to blockchain? So you can look at this as what critical value are you really providing to your users? And you have this grid, and I would assume a lot of them would probably be in the lower left, fun gaming experience. But are you willing to sacrifice any of these other things? Are you willing to let, say self-sovereignty get in the way of a fun gaming experience? Like, what is the penultimate goal that you're trying to accomplish with this project that you're building? Which things need to be killed? Maybe in order to sustain that goal, the fun gaming experience, maybe it's decentralization, maybe it is self-sovereignty, maybe it's true asset ownership. It's up to you, but going through these exercises can make sure that, first and foremost, the thing that you're building is something that people want. Just to take this one back, Netflix, they spent 10 years shipping DVDs before they started to stream their first piece of content. And this was the plan all along. That takes so much discipline to know for 10 years. Not even to mention that Roku was a Netflix device and they spun that out. That's just crazy as well. So why does any of this matter? So I think we're in a place where, for the first time that I can remember, we're building on a technology that we expect the end users to understand. At no point in my life have I ever cared about, how, the internet was sent to me. I don't understand packets. I didn't understand, what the streaming mechanism is for Netflix or any other game or television or. I don't know how any of that stuff works, and I didn't need to. I knew that they created great experiences that I enjoyed, and that's what I spent my time on doing. So for the blockchain space, I think that we just might need to take a little bit of time to recalibrate the goal that we're building, especially with games. I love the idea of true ownership. It's something that's genuinely one of the most important shifts in our life, I believe. But the idea that, that's going to get in the way of actually building a good experience is something that we shouldn't be willing to sacrifice. So I leave you with this. Are you being ruthlessly outcome-oriented? Thanks. So I'm moderating a panel in a second, but if there's any questions, happy to take some. Thank you. Yes? I can hear you. Wow. Yes, absolutely. So she said I was brilliant and asking how I'm helping, which is really nice. So we're helping with wallets. So we started this company as a team that had shipped software before, understands how difficult it is to get people to install a product. It doesn't even need any sign up, just to go to the App Store. And we built a few prototypes of dApps that we were excited about, but the wallet options were just untenable for a mainstream audience. It was an absolute showstopper. And so we spent some time figuring out how we could help with that primitive infrastructure requirement. And so we've basically done a lot of the hard work over the past year to provide anybody with, any developer with an easy SDK that they can allow their users to create wallets with an email and password, and they're hardware secured.